My name is Lisa Shea, and this video is part of a series that I'm doing on the way that YouTube analytics and view counts and other statistics work in a variety of different video channels. I've got 14 different video channels that I run, and this one happens to be for the Blackstone Valley Art Association, which is a local art organization in Massachusetts. This video channel was started in 2013 and has just over 250 videos live on it. They are pretty much all either how-to videos for painting or drawing or doing other kinds of art, or slideshow videos of art shows that we have, or on-site plein airs or that kind of stuff. So they are generally a mix of entertainment videos and how-to instructional videos. So this is an interesting mix for any artists or creatives out there to see how the two different kinds of videos change the way that people interact with them in terms of the statistics that are generated and the fall-off rate and other kinds of details. So let's get started. This page here is the main page of videos for the channel, just so you get a sense of, again, the kinds of videos that we've got. So we've got some time lapses of videos. We've got some step-by-step how-tos that go through every single step of things. We'll just scroll down a little ways down in here. We've got a slideshow of art from an art show. We've got particular artists talking about art that they've created and the background behind how they created it. And we've got some other walkthroughs of locations. We've got a Blackstone Valley Art Show. We've got an alcohol ink demo, pastel demos, and other kinds of things in here. So a wide variety of different things between photography, drawing, painting, poetry, and other kinds of details. So we're going to get into the YouTube Studio area by clicking on your icon in the top right and then going into the local YouTube Studio area. So this is the Studio dashboard. This site gets updated sporadically, so we'll have some sort of event and we'll do a bunch of posts and then it will go quiet for a while and then we'll do another kind of event and do a bunch of posts. So that's the kind of pattern that we've got here for this one. If we go into the content listing on the left, then we get to all the videos in the system. We'll sort them by views. So this is a small site. We tend to get views mostly in the hundreds of views, and we have just two that are up over in the thousands of views. So when you're looking at videos, the way to see the statistics on a given video is to point at that video in this content listing and then to click on the analytics button. So we're going to click on the analytics for this portrait video. If we come down in here, we'll see that initially people who are looking for portrait content came here and we had a drop of about 35%, which is pretty standard for art-related videos. As if you took a look at my other videos so far on origami and my Lisa Shea artists and so on, it's pretty standard for art types of videos that are not about how to put toner in a printer or that kind of very specific how-to, that artists tend to be much more picky about what they want to learn and how they want to learn it. So we've got a drop as people took a look at this video and said, oh no, this isn't quite how I want to learn how to draw faces. I want to learn a different style, or I want to learn it with a different language, or whatever it is. And then we get down to the settled number of people who say, all right, this is the style I want to learn. And then they remain pretty steady. And that's what you're looking for. You want to get a nice steady layer of the people who have decided this is the video that they're looking for and to stay with you until pretty much the end. So the ways to change this initial drop off, if you were doing like a video, like I said, that's a very specific kind of how to mix blue plus red, you won't get as much drop off because people are looking for more logical, I'll say, types of instruction. But anytime you get into this art kind of range where it's more artistic, then you're always going to see a drop off based on people looking for a different kind of style. So here, let's take a look at Jerry's, we'll look at, again, at the analytics for the Jerry Assis winter scene. So again, we have a drop off here because people look at that and then say, oh, wait, that's not quite the way I want to paint a house, or I want to do it darker or lighter, all that other kinds of stuff. You're always going to have a drop off at the beginning, especially for long videos, and then it should settle in somewhere. On this one, settling in around 15 to 20%, which is fine. And you also have to remember with art videos that many people watch these over and over again to figure out a particular part of the technique. So there is often a tail off at the end because people are rewatching the middle parts and getting a hang of what they're getting stuck on. So this one is doing well in that it's got a nice steady progression in here. they'll show you an average percentage, but that is pretty much useless for any sort of actual figuring out what you want to do with your videos. What you need to look at is this graph, and you need to look at the drop off and see if it's consistent with the type of video that you're working on, and then look at the long-term run and see if it's staying steady in there or if people are losing interest for some sort of a reason. Here, let's come out and take a look at, I think, Luke, let's look at Mike McCool. So this is a slideshow of artist Mike McCool and his art. And if we look at his traffic, it stays nice and steady, and it stays nice and high. It's staying up around the 66%. That's because someone who comes to this video knows what kind of art it's going to be and knows that it's a presentation of this artist's style. They wouldn't have clicked if they didn't like this first picture, and we particularly chose a picture that was eye-catching so that people were very clear on what the style was going to be. If they don't like this style, they're not going to click in the first place. And if they do like this style, then they're going to tend to like the other videos that he has in his slideshow. So you can see that there's very little drop-off. Someone clicking on that image knows what they're going to get. They know that they want to stick around for it. And there's a little bit of drop-off, but you're always going to have that because people's phones die or they get distracted by something else. And there's always going to be a drop-off at the end because when they get to the end, they're done with it. And especially if it's just like an end tag screen that has a URL or something, then they tend to click away from that. So let's see, there is a couple more that were like that kind of style. All right, so here we go, a similar one from Luke McNeil, who's one of our photographers. So there's some drop off at the beginning. Maybe they saw that first image and then the other images weren't quite in the same style, and people decided that they were going to leave. But still, it's got like a 50% steady rate in here. So once we lose a couple people that weren't just quite interested in all the things that Luke had to offer, then everything else stayed pretty steady while they watched the rest of this slideshow. And again, this is a 7-minute slideshow. It's not like 30 seconds. So the rest of these people enjoy the process for 7 minutes, which as we see with current attention spans is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. So let me kick this out to 50 rows and go down and take a look. There is an alcohol ink demo. All right, so if we compare demos, which are different than specific workshops and are also different from slideshows. A demo is a case where they're not really teaching you something, but you're just sort of learning some techniques by watching someone else do a demo of it. You can see there's a pretty sharp drop off here at the beginning. Maybe it was about the way that we filmed it. Maybe people felt that they couldn't see things as well as they might have wanted to. Or maybe it was just the styles that she was doing wasn't interesting. Again, when you're doing something artistic related, people are going to have all sorts of reasons for moving on to something else. Maybe it wasn't blue enough or green enough or yellow enough. They're making personal decisions in here, but then it settles down to the 25% that do like it, and that stays pretty constant. And this looks like it's an hour long, so it's really surprising that people stayed in here as long as they did, because that's a long time for people to sit there staring at a screen. So she was able to engage them in that. All right, somewhere in here. All right, so here's an example of a different kind of video that we had. We did art-poetry pairings, and we had the artists and the poets talk about the way that they paired their art together. So if we look at the analytics of this was just a little short 2-minute video, but you can see that it started high and it stayed really high. It stayed up in the 70% range. So people who knew about Jane and Linda doing their art and poetry together, they clicked on this on purpose because they wanted to learn about Jane and Linda doing their poetry, and they stayed with them till the end because once the two started talking, they wanted to hear everything that they said. So this is a case where someone wasn't trying to figure out how to paint a house and maybe thought the house style wasn't quite what they were interested in, but they were interested in this combination of two people, and therefore they stuck with it. So that's a different flavor on the kinds of videos that you can put together. If someone's coming just to see Mike McCool's paintings or just to hear Jane and Linda talk about their art styles, then it'll hold their attention through the end of that process. All right, so let's take a look here and see what else we got. All right, so like for example, Carol Frieswick did a little slideshow where she talked about paintings that she entered into a show. And for this, she had pretty much no drop-off. So people who came here knew it was about Carol Frieswick, knew that she was going to be talking about her painting style and how she chose to paint these things, and people stayed right with her. And there's always going to be a tiny bit of drop-off because phones die or people get distracted or so on, but that is a nice steady set of numbers for the people watching this. And again, it's worth noting that it's only 2.5 minutes. So we didn't have to hold their attention for a full hour, but for that time period, people stayed. And certainly there could be cases where people's attention drops off immediately if it wasn't something that they were engaged in doing. All right, so let's take a look at it's another demo situation, and this is only a 36-second demo, so it's very short. So then I've clicked on the analytics for it. So you can see that engagement started high because people are interested in how encaustic painting works. They knew it was going to be short because YouTube shows them right on there how long something's going to be. So they're not expecting some super long, intricate demo. And the retention on this stayed nice and high. It was up in the 66% because people knew what they were getting. They knew it was going to be short, and then they watched it to the end to see exactly what she did. So you can aim for longer pieces where you go step by step through a very long thing, and you're going to have drop off at the beginning because people are going to take a glance and say, is this something I want to watch for an hour? And they'll say, no, not really. Or they can decide, all right, I am going to stick with it. But there's always going to be a drop off between the two. If you do shorter videos, you're much more likely to have someone stick with it, especially if they know exactly what it's going to look like. But then, I mean, you're only holding their attention for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. And is that going to be enough to convey what you need to? So let's take a look at this Carol Arnold painting workshop on roses. So this is the kind of situation where we have a big drop-off because it's an hour-long video. And people aren't necessarily going to want to sit here for an hour if it's not exactly what they're interested in. So in these kinds of videos where it's an hour long, I mean, Carol Arnold is a really talented painter and people pay a lot of money for her workshops. But even so, we have a drop off down to around 15 to 20%. And that number of people sat there for the next hour watching her paint and maybe watched it over and over again to learn the techniques that she's got. But you're going to have that kind of drop off for anything that's unique, creative type of oriented, where people are coming in and having to make a commitment to try to learn how to do something for that length of time. And let's take a look. Oh, what else have we gotten here? This was a private video that we had for an oil painting session on boats. And let's just take a look at this out of curiosity. So the same sort of thing. Some people watched it at the beginning and got a sense that, all right, this isn't quite what they were interested in doing. And then we had the loyal people who sat and watched it all the way through. And it could be that people watched bits of it. So they watched a bit and then they fast forwarded to another bit to get a sense of it. So the question is, how many people are you going to expect to watch the whole thing? And you're going to want to get as many people as possible to find it in the first place. And that's where your Twitter promotions and Facebook promotions and TikTok and everything else come in, to be able to find it in the first place so that then a portion of them will stay, and the other portion that just aren't interested in that, learning that particular style of painting or drawing or dancing or whatever it is that you're doing, are going to go find someone else, which is fine. That's the way that the web works. We have lots of different options, lots of different teachers and instructors, and people find what they're interested in. So here we can take a look at Dennis Smith and see, we get people look at that. They know that it's short. They know what that style is, and then they tend to stay engaged through it because they know that it's short and they know what they're getting themselves into, and they know that it's not an instruction video. People are much pickier about instruction videos because it's something that they're trying to learn versus sitting back enjoying what someone else has created just in terms of a slideshow of their art without having any requirement to learn how to do something, we'll say. I'm just seeing if there's anything else in here. Like we can look at the sunflower show. And if you look at the sunflower show, we have some drop off as you get through the people who weren't really interested in looking at sunflower slideshows. Maybe they thought it was going to be actual sunflowers or something like that. And then we settle into the people who are happily watching through the different pictures of the sunflowers and enjoying them. So that's just what's always going to happen with videos. You shouldn't take it personally that people are leaving, unless it's a case where your initial photo and title and description do not match well with what they get. So if you get like 99% of people leaving, because they all thought they were going to get something else, and then they were drawn into something that they weren't interested in, then that is certainly something to fix. But like here, if we look at this printmaking by Randy Lesage, you know, if you are, that video doesn't show well what type of printmaking he's doing. So maybe we should, some of these are pretty old. So maybe we should change the cover image of this so it shows much more clearly what his style is. So we're having a drop off because people aren't sure what kind of printmaking he's making, undoubtedly. And then once we settle into the group of people who say, oh, I actually like this style of printmaking, I like the stuff that he's doing, then we've got people who stick around for it. So if you're seeing a drop-off that you want to try to get a handle on, then part of what you can do is work with your title images, work with your title text, your keywords, your description, and so on, so that you are only drawing in people who are interested. Could be a portion of this people were interested in doing flower prints, bright, colorful flower prints. And once they took a look at what Randy was doing, they said, all right, this isn't for me. And we would get less views, you could say, by losing those people if we just started down here with these people coming in. But then the retention would look a lot different because those people would end up staying at much higher rates. And then that gets into a question of, would you rather just have as many people as possible starting so that maybe they'll find something they like, or maybe they say, oh, I actually like this after all? Or would you rather, in essence, block those people from even trying the video by having a clear image so that only people who are absolutely interested in this video topic get started in it? And, there's pros and cons to both of those points of view. I always try to err on the side of making the title and the keywords and everything else as clear as humanly possible so you do get in people who are interested in it. Because you also have the point of view that there could be people who love Randy Lesage's style, but they don't start clicking on this video because they can't tell by looking at this that what he's about to do is something that they're really going to love. So I would try to be clear, but I would also try to be as wide-ranging as possible so that you draw in as many people to try it and see what they think about it. All right, let's go down a little further. See if there's anything else in here to look for. More encaustic stuff. More art and poetry stuff. So here, let's take a look at another art and poetry just to see. So again, it starts pretty high and it goes down, a bit 58 to 60 range. So people who are clicking on this are interested in seeing Jane and Linda and Young and I talk together about the things that we're working on. And then they're likely to stay for the whole 2 minutes to hear us talk about the stuff that we're working on. So people who aren't interested in this particular group are probably not even clicking in the first place. So we are self-selecting out the people who might not be interested. And also, again, because that isn't a demo, people are much more interested in just sitting back and listening to artists talk about the things that they're doing rather than focusing in on a demo and trying to figure out what the techniques are and what exactly a person is doing and so on. All right, let's go a little deeper into the catalog here. What else? If something only has like 10 or 11 views on it, then you don't have enough to make any sort of statistical decision on what works or what doesn't work on it. So like we have this chocolate art show that has 8 views on it. And it won't even show what the stats are. But here, let's sort it by date and go back to the very end. If I can see past my cat, who has decided to go climbing all around right now. As long as the cat doesn't decide to eat the microphone, which is the cat's other favorite thing to do in life. Alright, so let's go back to the oldest video, which we are nearly at. Alright, so those encaustic paintings that we're looking at are some of the older ones in the Jerry Assis video. But let's look at, like, for example, this art show video. This was one of our very first recorded art show videos. And with an art show, people start off and then they sort of lose interest as they decide that the art that they're seeing is interesting or not interesting. But there's always going to be a loyal group that hangs around until the end. And that is fine. That's just part of the process of YouTube. And you don't get a huge drop off because someone who sees that this is an art show video and sees the picture of the art in there, they know what they're getting into. They're not making a commitment for an hour of learning how to paint a crayon resist turtle and then decide, oh, I don't like this turtle style, or I don't like its colors or whatever. They're sitting back and saying, all right, for a minute and a half, I'm going to watch a walkthrough for an art show. And that's fine. So you get some drop off, but not that sharp cliff drop off that you'll see with an art instruction video. So here, let's go back one and try to find another old instruction video just to see that. All right, so that's Randy Lesage. We've already looked at him. Let's look at the Jill Pottle one. All right, so for the Jill Pottle, because this is a demo, demo/instruction, we have the drop off because there'll be some people who decide they want to learn this style, and then another group of people who decide that, all right, they're not interested in that teacup or that shape or so on. So for art and instruction videos, you tend to see a drop off of here, and then you see it settle into the 10%, 20%, and that is a normal, natural cycle for this kind of video. So I think to summarize, here, let's go over into the analytics just to look at the analytics for a second, and we'll look at the lifetime. All right, so this is the lifetime analytics for the channel. So 11,000 views or so. So a smallish channel with the kinds of traffic that we've got. And you can see that it was low, and then it gets larger as we sit here putting more and more videos up. And also, that by this point we had an Instagram page and a Facebook page and everything, when we were using them much more heavily. So you can see the traffic on the YouTube channel gets much heavier when we start doing those kinds of things. And the top videos are the portrait painting one. But see, if you look at this and you see that 8.3%, that makes it seem like people only watch 8% of it and then they all stop, which is not what happens. With any sort of how-to video, you're going to have a drop-off at the beginning where people decide whether they want to learn this style or not, and then people keep watching through. And especially with long videos, the longer the video, the more that those numbers get skewed. And with Jerry's watercolor demonstration, you're also going to have a drop-off. And again, it's not that 17% of people or people will only watch the 17% of the show or anything like that. It's just an indication that he had the natural drop-off at the beginning as people decided whether or not they wanted to learn this particular painting, and then the rest of the people watched through. These pastel ones are private videos now because it was part of a special project we were doing. But then when you have things like photography show videos and stuff, there's far less of a drop-off because people know going into this that they're going to watch a series of images, and they sit back with a mug of coffee or whatever to watch them. And then let's see, we'll go into the more details this way. I'm just curious what else I can call out. If something's short, people are far more likely to sit and watch through it. And this is the Mike McCool one that we were looking at before that had really good retention rates. But it's only a minute long, so people are quite happy to watch something for a minute, especially if it's a person talking about their art or a person showcasing their art. You'll sit there for a minute, especially if the image that they see in the first place is something they're intrigued by. They're happy to sit there for a minute and watch art that they're interested in and to learn more about it. As compared to if it's a very long video, where they would have to sit for quite a while, and it's doing a demo that they decide that they're really not that interested in that particular demo information. Here, let's look at the original stream for the New Hampshire painting, for example. So again, this is a watercolor how-to that did step-by-step how to do it, and you're always going to have a drop-off on it because people decide I'm not interested in that style, or I'm not interested in that scene, or whatever. And then you should have people hanging in pretty steadily with it after that point. This was a live stream, so there's some gaps in here, but you get the general sense of that. So in this screen, you can see that we primarily had the Jerry Assis video for quite a while because we weren't putting a lot of other videos on, so all of the screen was his traffic doing well. And then we started adding all sorts of other things, and the more videos we added, the more traffic we got. And as I mentioned in my Lisa Shea artist video, it is not necessarily true that you can just dump more videos in and get more traffic. I proved that when I did my spirograph example, and I got no traffic on those. So adding more videos didn't help in that sense. So you need to look at the kinds of videos people are interested in, the kind of videos you're capable of making, and look at the lengths of videos that you want to work on. Shorter videos get more people to stick with them, but then they're short, so your overall watch hours doesn't really climb. So it's good to have a mix of short videos that are engaging and then longer videos with the expectation that you're going to get a drop off at the beginning of them, especially if it's a how-to painting, and then you'll get a loyal group of people to hang in there. And that's why you want to do as much promotion as possible in Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and other things, so you get as many initial views to then hook as many long-term views out of that smaller portion. And it's the same for when you promote books. When you promote books, there's going to be tons of people who read the first couple pages and then just aren't interested, and that's why you want to get thousands upon thousands of people to try the book, so that you hook as many who are going to keep reading and get through the whole rest of the book. So it's all, the same exact mentality. So let me know if you have any questions about an art organization, or I suppose any sort of creative group that is online and looking to build their traffic or build their view counts, to get a sense of the way that traffic is very different when you do a slideshow of one artist versus an art show with multiple artists versus a demo versus an actual workshop where someone is going to be following along with the instructions and getting it to the end, especially if it's a long half-hour to hour-long one. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help, and I hope you have a wonderful week.